Hey guys, on today's episode, we're working on this, a 1965 Jaguar E-Type. You can see it's been sitting out for over 30 years, and specifically, we're gonna be focusing on the wire wheels that are gross and they're rusted. We're gonna be filling up this trough with soda, dunking the wheels in, and see if it actually makes a difference compared to an over-the-counter rust remover. That and a whole lot more in this episode of Drive and Protect. Step one is to remove the rusty wheels from the Jag and get Axel to dismount the old, crusty tube tires. While Axel was playing with the wheel, I went to visit Dollar Tree to get some soda and Home Depot for some over-the-counter rust remover. All right, so I just bought Coke at the dollar store, but they don't let you take the carts outside. Fairly interesting, so I'm gonna drive, I got the 964 today, fill this bad boy up, head back to the shop and see if we can clean some wheels. All right, rust removers. All right, so I think we're gonna try the over-the-counter. We're gonna get the jelly. Apparently that's jelly in there, and then we have the spray-on gel. So this is a thicker version of this one. We'll try these two right here. If I were to use this one, I would need to get about 25 of these to fill up that jug. So we're not gonna do that. We're gonna get these, see what happens. For test one, I filled an old black mechanic trough with about 30 liters of soda, but that failed for two reasons. One, the trough was too wide and requires a lot more soda than was available at the store at the time. And number two, perfect. It was just leaking, so it just went all over the floor. So test one was a fail. The next day, I went back to the tree and all they had left was diet soda, which still contains phosphoric acid. So I bought up all the inventory again. This time though, I bought a clear, smaller bin and refilled it with Diet Cola and placed the rusty rim about 50% in the soda for 24 hours. As you can see, the acid is really reacting to the rust by fizzing and popping. Obviously, soda normally fizzes and pops when you drink it, but based on what I could see, it was more prevalent when I placed the wheel inside the bin. But the big question is, why? Soda contains phosphoric acid, which is a mild acid when compared to hydrochloric or sulfuric acids. Phosphoric acids are commonly used in fertilizers as an essential nutrient for plants, some toothpaste to help dissolve mineral deposits, rust removers, and of course soda to give it that tangy flavor and act as a preservative. Rust on wheels forms when iron reacts with oxygen and water, creating iron oxide, which is hard and flaky in texture. The acid within the soda reacts with the iron oxide, converting it into a more soluble compound that's easier to scrub away. In other words, it makes it easier to clean, but it's obviously not as concentrated or strong as dedicated acid cleaners. Okay, at this point, the rusty Jag wheel has been sitting in the soda for exactly 24 hours. So I'm gonna pull it out and see if it's done anything. Now the irony is, if you look at both of these here, this is the diet soda, and this is the gel that we're going to use later on. They both contain phosphoric acid. That's why we're doing this, just to see if this actually works. First time I've removed it in 24 hours. Oh, interesting. Okay. Let's see, let's put it here. All right, so it didn't come off without wiping, meaning it just didn't like disappear. But if you wipe this gently, I can't believe that's actually working. I guess the idea is you'd love to not have to do this all by hand. It would just pop off, but dude, that is crazy to me. All right, now for test 2 and 3, I do have to say before we start that, the soda back there, I cannot believe that worked as well as it did. I'm actually quite shocked talking to you on camera right now. I'm looking at it, and the thing is like almost chromed out. Even after you wipe it down, I'm just shocked. Anyways, for test number 2 and 3, what we're gonna do, these are both of the back rims. They look pretty similar in terms of their dirtiness level. This side here, we're gonna use the same thing, phosphoric acid, but there's a gel form so you can spray it. This one is the same thing, phosphoric acid, but it's very, very thick, so you have to brush it on. So I'm gonna put that on, and each of them say about 30 minutes, let it sit for a while and let it do its thing. On this one over here, I thought, why not just go the traditional route where we power wash it, we use normal cleaning supplies, lots of finger work, lots getting in and out like you would normally do on a detail, and just compare all of them. So this is gonna be, 5 minutes of work. This is gonna be letting it sit for half an hour and then doing another half an hour or whatever amount of work based on the level of dirt. And that one over there is after 24 hours and just absolutely unbelievable. So these little nerdy things, there's no right or wrong answer. It's just figuring out, hey, what works for you? But I cannot believe that the soda we drink makes it that shiny. That's completely insane. For test 2, I used the gel, which is sprayable, and based on what the label says, it works in about 30 minutes. If you need to remove rust in tight spots, the sprayable version makes more sense. Then I tried the jelly version, which is thick and it can't go through the trigger and needs to be painted on. Now, for me, I would recommend this application, especially for wire wheels, for 2 reasons. First, it's more concentrated, or said another way, it's not as diluted, certainly enough to get through the trigger sprayer. So instead of it working in about 30 minutes, it works in half that amount of time. Number 2, by applying with a brush, you are becoming very accurate with where you're placing the acid on that particular part, in this case, the wheel. It's more of a thorough application or more of a thorough coverage area, but it may not be as convenient as spraying. Likewise, if you're wondering if an acid smell existed, it did, but it wasn't overwhelming.
There's actually no strong smell either.
While that was sitting for its 15 to 30 minutes, I started test number 3.
Okay, so for test 3, I'm going to use the traditional method. The traditional method is using more, over-the-counter car wash cleaning, what people would normally do, as opposed to using acid. In this case, I'm using plum. Now, the reason I designed plum the way that it is, it's actually on the higher pH scale, the opposite of low pH, meaning acid. So this is a higher pH. The reason why I did that is the higher end, meaning high pH or low pH, those are the strong cleaners. So in this case, I wanted to stay away from acid because of the negative things that can come with acid. You can burn areas here, you can burn yourself, your eyes, that kind of thing. And so for most retail people, most people in the driveway, in my opinion, it's safer to use a higher pH because it does an amazing job of cleaning as well. There are times where you do need acid, so that there's no bones about that. And this might be one of those cases where it's just so bad that you have to use an industrial acid. You just have to understand that there are consequences to it. So we're going to do the 3rd test here and see how it goes.
First, liberally apply Plum high pH wheel cleaner and scrub as usual with the 2-tier wheel brush.
When acid is really working for you is when you have a lot of rust. So I would say acid is far superior in the presence of rust for sure than something that has a higher pH or is safer, cleaner for sensitive paints or painted calipers or carbon ceramics and those types of things. So just keep in mind that acids are very beneficial, just maybe not all the time for regular everyday maintenance washes. Only for disasters like this, I think it could be pretty good. Specifically for the rust, you can see the rust in here. That's going to be hard to take out with a higher pH. You gotta love wire wheels.
You'll notice that all the dirt and oil is being removed easily from the wheel, but some of the heavy rust still remains.
All right, so here are the results of test 3. You can see it looks fantastic. It is much cleaner. However, in the areas that have oxidation that have been there for quite some time, it didn't remove it. And the reason it didn't remove it is you're using a higher pH. So for normal tires, normal wheels, normal wheel wells, you can use a higher pH and it's going to clean it fantastic, more like a maintenance thing. And I think for the heavier rust areas, you are going to probably want to lean more towards something that is based in acid, phosphoric acid, et cetera, et cetera. So now that this is done and it looks really good, let's try and pull this one because we're about 27 minutes in. All right, so the idea here with number 2, which is using these guys over here, is to wash everything off afterwards and do not let it dry. So let's do that right now and see the results.
After the quick wash with a microfiber towel and then the power wash, this wheel has far less oxidation. Is it perfect? No, but it is the best of the 3 processes when removing heavy rust from your wire wheels.
So here are the results from test number 1, test number 2, and test number 3. Now test number 1, we had the phosphoric acid, AKA soda, which is completely insane. Very, very shocked that this worked. Now, the downside to this is it's not as strong, and that's very obvious because if you were drinking strong acid, we'd have some problems with our stomach, etc. But the fact is, it actually did do something with a little bit of manipulation, a little bit of agitation, and I'm speechless that it actually worked. Now, for test number 2, we used an over-the-counter Rust-Oleum And of course, that is a gel, and then the jelly itself, a much stronger acid. And the idea of the jelly and the gel is to be able to stick, because you need dwell time for that to eat up the oxidation, aka the rust. For test number 3, we used regular, normal method of cleaning a wheel, and in this case, we used a high pH versus a low pH. Now, in this particular case, you can see it is much cleaner, but it did nothing to remove the oxidation. Now, what's the moral of the story here? Now, this is steel, but it's chrome-plated steel. So now the idea here is when it oxidizes, you can put these acids on here, and I'm a proponent of that. The downsides, of course, is it could be a little bit dangerous. You have runoff, things like that. If you use common sense, you'll be fine. However, I just want to make sure that people understand that most wheels today on modern cars, remember, this is from 1965, most modern wheels today are painted and they're clear coated. So you wouldn't want to use an acid on a wheel like that. That's basically almost all the wheels that are out there today. You would etch them, and it's very, very strong on those things, especially if you left them or if they were hot. On the other hand, if you had, let's say this wheel was actually painted and clear coated, you'd want to use this method because you wouldn't be, one, removing oxidation on a wheel like that, and two, you wouldn't be wanting to remove everything like you would with acid. So the moral of the story is acid is fantastic. As you can see, this is insane, and that's just crazy at removing oxidation. If you don't have oxidation, you should stick with the regular method. But I hope this was super helpful, because it was for me. I cannot believe that soda did that. There is no way I am drinking that ever again. Talk to you guys soon. If you have any questions, you know where to find me, Larry at Ammo NYC. I'll see you soon.